Once the vegetation had been removed, the dozers continued to work. These powerful, efficient machines did most of the rough grading. Working together in tandem, these dozers were used to move earth short distances. Also very helpful with the grading were the carry-all scrapers, which brought in sound fill material which had to be moved a longer distance. Then the graders went to work to complete the spreading of the fill and finish the rough grading. Sheep's foot rollers were used to obtain the necessary compaction for the fill. And the strip was gradually worked into shape. Graders were again used to bring the field to final grade and to prepare it for surfacing. Gravel obtained from a nearby gravel source was then dumped in piles to better control the thickness of the layers. However, this method usually results in an unevenly compacted surface. Many times it's better to partially spread the gravel by tailgating it from moving trucks. Motorized graders spread the material evenly on the field. After several passes, the layer of gravel was spread to a uniform thickness. The area was then compacted with smooth-wheeled rollers. When this final step of surfacing was completed, another airfield in the CBI was ready for use. Another problem solved by the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the engineers, who in this theater have learned to improvise in the face of conditions best described as not ideal. Not all airfield construction is done with mechanized equipment. Sometimes they must be built by entirely different means. Here, coolies are being used to construct a runway for B-29s and other large bombers. But the first requirement when using coolies is to have thousands of them. Working almost entirely by hand, every operation takes time. The more hands you have, the faster the work is done. Coolie methods are primitive, and they still use their all-purpose hose and baskets as they go about the job of leveling the ground. Some of the coolies may use homemade wheelbarrows to transport stones and dirt. But most of them stick to their traditional baskets to haul material from one place to another. The overall methods of bringing the strip to grade are very similar to those already shown. But of course, with native labor, the time element is always longer. For heavy construction, we use a base course composed of large stones, 6 to 8 inches on a side, which we call a Telford base. These stones are chinked or laid together with stone fragments to hold them firmly in place. Then, since smaller stones are needed to fill the voids near the surface, groups of natives with hammers work their way along the strip, breaking up some of the larger rocks on the surface. Here, coolies are mixing an earth mortar called slurry to fill the small remaining voids in the Telford base. Since some of the soil contains gypsum, it has a certain amount of bond when it dries. This slurry, after being mixed to a soupy consistency, is poured into wooden buckets and carried to the runway. There it is poured between the stones and acts as a substitute for bonding materials such as cement mortar or asphalt. When all the voids have been filled and a fine aggregate has been put on top, the surface is rolled until compact. Some of the huge native rollers have been carved out of solid rock, and it probably took several generations of stone chippers to do the job, but that's how they were made. It's hard to realize that runways for the mighty super fortresses, the B-29s, can be made by coolies using some of the most primitive construction methods. But engineers supervise their work and adapt their methods to the job at hand. And that tells the story. A thorough understanding of native methods, adaptability, resourcefulness, and ingenuity are the trademarks of the engineers in the CBI.
If you enjoyed that, you may enjoy some of my other World War II videos. I have 3 World War II playlists, one of general videos, one with newsreel footage, and another concentrating on the efforts of women during World War II. Check out my channel for other interesting videos on a variety of topics, and subscribe because we'll be adding lots of new video, including new World War II footage.